So in today's video, I will be making a request, a plea of sorts, two of them to a number of different companies. So my first request is to the Chinese lens making manufacturers. This includes the likes of Viltrox, TT Artisans, Seven Artisans, Miike, any of them that make autofocus APS-C lenses. So my request or my suggestion to these companies, port your APS-C autofocus lenses to Micro Four Thirds. For some reason, all these companies got the suggestion that Micro Four Thirds users don't buy lenses, I guess. It probably started because Sigma used to make lenses for Micro Four Thirds, but they backed out. So now all these Chinese manufacturers just decided, oh, Micro Four Thirds users don't buy lenses, which is really dumb. I guess they think Micro Four Thirds users are broke or something. I highly doubt that, especially since they'll go out and buy tiny 10-year-old Micro Four Thirds cameras for like 900 or $1,000. So Chinese companies, trust me, if you were to port over your APS-C autofocus lenses to Micro Four Thirds, they would sell. One of the reasons why I was really thinking about this topic is Seven Artisans just recently released a line of APS-C autofocus lenses they call the Elite line. I think it's 25, 35, and a 50. The thing that stands out about these autofocus lenses is that they're $125. That is insane. The lens in particular in that lineup that I was really looking at and really wish were on Micro Four Thirds was their 50. Specifically because that would translate into a 100mm lens. And this should baffle some Micro Four Thirds users that neither Lumix or Olympus ever made a portrait lens in the range of 100 to 135. That's odd because that focal length range is pretty well recognized as the portrait focal length range, along with 85, which Lumix does have. If you look at the lenses that Lumix Olympus offers in terms of primes, they go from 85 to 90, and then they jump to 150. So they don't have any 100mm or 135mm focal length equivalent. Like personally, I want a 100mm portrait lens so much that I even resort to adapting Canon's EF Nifty 50 lens through a adapter. And this is just a regular adapter, not the speed booster adapter, because I specifically wanted a 100mm focal length lens, prime lens, for my Lumix cameras. And neither Lumix or Olympus makes that. So I decided to adapt an EF lens just to get a 100mm focal length prime. But yeah, the kicker is that 50 1.8 is $125. That's insane. If any of those lenses were on Micro Four Thirds, they would sell. But for some reason, Seven Artisans doesn't believe that. Neither do Viltrox or TT Artisans or Miike. And just in terms of the variety that APS-C autofocus lenses have now, Viltrox is pretty much the premium option now when it comes to APS-C lenses, APS-C autofocus lenses. They have a 75 1.2. Like, holy crap, if that lens were on Micro Four Thirds, it would put Olympus's 75 into retirement probably. And no offense to Olympus 75, I hear from users all the time about how insanely sharp that lens is, but if Viltrox were to just up and put their 75 1.2 on Micro Four Thirds, it would just eat the Olympus's 75's lunch. Sorry, no offense. Yeah, there's just so many neat APS-C autofocus lenses now coming out from all these Chinese manufacturers. And they just decided we're not gonna bother putting anything on Micro Four Thirds because Sigma said years ago, hey, there's no sales here, so there's no point in any of you guys trying to make a sale with Micro Four Thirds. And the Chinese lens manufacturers just said, all right, if Sigma doesn't want to make Micro Four Thirds autofocus lenses, there's no point in us making it. But that's complete BS because these autofocus APS-C lenses from these Chinese manufacturers would sell on Micro Four Thirds. We can't say for sure why they're not there, but that goes to my next area of speculation is that I think possibly my next plea is to the Micro Four Thirds Alliance or Micro Four Thirds League, whatever it is, mainly to Olympus and Panasonic. Guys, are you guys hindering these Chinese manufacturers from wanting to put their APS-C autofocus lenses on Micro Four Thirds? Like, are you guys coming together, Olympus and Panasonic? Are you guys making it tough for these Chinese manufacturers to possibly put lenses on Micro Four Thirds? This is pure speculation. I have no idea if this is what they do. I'm just speaking out my butt, but maybe Olympus and Panasonic don't want these Chinese manufacturers making Micro Four Third autofocus lenses. Maybe they look at it and say, no, we don't want you competing with our lenses. Like Lumix is looking at all these crazy affordable 7R since APS-C autofocus lenses and saying, don't bring that to Micro Four Thirds. They're too good. They would ensure that Lumix never sells another autofocus Micro Four Thirds lens again. So although, once again, this is pure speculation. I have no idea how the Micro Four Thirds Alliance works. It's probably similar to L Model Alliance where, you know, the top dogs are Micro Four Thirds, Olympus, and Lumix, and maybe they have to look at they have to approve if other companies want to make autofocus lenses. Who the hell knows? But maybe it's a little bit of both, where these Chinese lens manufacturers, they just don't bother trying to make lenses for Micro Four Thirds, and then Lumix and Olympus just, you know, they're not going to try to get anyone to join in on making Micro Four Third lenses. So it's probably just a little bit of both. Chinese manufacturers don't see any profit there, or don't know that they can make lenses for Micro Four Thirds if they wanted. And then on the other side, Lumix and Olympus, they're not gonna tell, hey, Viltrox, bring your lenses to Micro Four Thirds. Especially not Lumix. Lumix isn't really trying to sell their Micro Four Thirds stuff right now. Olympus seems mainly focused in making like premium wildlife, long telephoto zoom lenses for wildlife. So they have no reason to want third parties to get in on that. But yeah, once again, it's speculation. I just it's a missed opportunity for these Chinese lens makers, though, in my opinion. They just don't think Micro Four Third users would buy their autofocus lenses. Granted, they're not made specifically for Micro Four Thirds. They would just be APS-C lenses retrofitted to Micro Four Thirds. But look at how small some of these lenses can get. The TT Artisan lens, I think it's at 27. Those 7 Arsons light lenses, those are insanely tiny lenses that you would think were made for Micro Four Thirds. So what's some of your opinions? Would you guys like to see some of these Chinese companies port their APS-C autofocus lenses to Micro Four Thirds? If for some reason you don't want to see that, then you're a weird person and you don't want Micro Four Thirds users to have options. You are weird. We should all have options. And second question, what are some autofocus APS-C lenses from these Chinese manufacturers that you would like to see come to Micro Four Thirds? Obviously, before I said I would love to see like the 51.8 light lens from 7 Arsons come to Micro Four Thirds, just because it is so cheap, and it'd be a 100mm portrait lens. It would be a killer lens. The 75 1.2 from Viltrox, that would be an insane portrait lens as well. So Chinese manufacturers, I don't know about why you guys don't want to put your stuff on Micro Four Thirds. All right, so thanks for checking this out, guys. It was just kind of a video of me getting some thoughts off my mind. So yeah, discuss in the comments, I guess. Catch you later, guys. Peace out.